Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, with me Arya Wiranda. Here, I want to share you about my critical thinking about the pros and cons in inclusive educations of Indonesia. So, I'm very pleasure to meet you in via YouTube, and I'm so excited to share about my critical thinking for this issue. Well, let's check it out. As I state you about the inclusive education, I'm gonna start it first with the educations. So education is an important element in life that must be concerned to all parties in this world, especially for Indonesia. Well, the birth of great, intelligent, and wise nations comes from the generation itself. Well, the importance of education in building a nation is no exceptions, and the inclusive education is the solution for this one. Before we want to understand about the inclusivity in education, we have to know the understanding of inclusive words in this case. So the word inclusive comes from the English word that is inclusions, that has a meaning to invite or to include. The word inclusive is an effort to accept the diversity with ourselves in society. This concept is not much different with tolerance that have to be applied in a multicultural society, especially for Indonesian country. Inclusive educations, according to O'Neill 1994, that states is an educational system service that require children with special needs to study in classes together with friends their age. Well, the inclusive education promotes the accommodating of all students in same class. Inclusive schools provide educational programs that are challenging, appropriate, but can be adapted to the abilities and needs of each student. Well, the term inclusive does not only refer to those who have special needs, but also for all children that have different background and different needs for studying together. Well, UNESCO promoted the inclusive educations from the word education for all, which means that friendly education for all without exceptions. Children with special needs have the same rights to get maximum benefits from the educations. Limited education services are the issue that has never been solved. The relatively limited number of special schools, or we can say SLB, has given rise to many includes education policies to fulfill the education rights of people with disabilities. These problems is revealed by the Common PPA 2021. So guys, from this main issue, I'm very interesting to introduce you. So how can we implement this of inclusive education, but we have to consider with pros and cons of inclusive education implementation in Indonesia. So after these sections, we have to analyze some pros and cons in inclusive educations. Well, everyone, implementing inclusive education in Indonesia, as in any country, with both advantages as the pros and challenges as the cons, it's essential to consider the unique of Indonesia context, including its diverse populations, culture nuances, and educational infrastructure. That there are some general pros and cons that we have to consider in implementing inclusive education. As you see, and the screen here on the screen here that my in the left side is about the pros aspect in inclusive education. The first aspect is promote diversity. It means that inclusive education foster a sense of belonging for students with diverse abilities, backgrounds, and learning styles. It can promote an inclusive culture with values and respect the differences among students. The next one is about social integrations. It means that inclusive education help reduce social isolations by integrating students with disabilities and the mainstream classroom, and it can encourage positive social interactions and friendships among students of varying abilities. The third one is about enhancing academic outcomes. It means that inclusive education can lead to improved academic outcomes for students with disabilities as they receive additional support and resources. The fourth one is about empathy and understanding. As we know that the inclusive educations allow the disabilities to come together, learning together with the normal student. It can make like the development of empathy and understanding among students as they interact with peers who have different abilities. And don't forget, it can help break down the stereotypes and reduce the stigmas associated with disabilities. And the next one is about cons aspect of implementing education's inclusivity. The first one is about lack sources. It means that how Indonesia may face challenges in providing adequate resources, trained personnel, and support service for implementing service education of inclusivity. And insufficient finding and infrastructure would hinder the effectiveness of inclusive programs. And the next one is about teacher training. I can understand that teacher is the very crucial subject for this implementing of inclusive education. Teacher training here means that this teacher may not be adequately trained to address the diverse needs of students with disabilities that can make them to add more knowledge about the development opportunities to necessary like learning skill new about inclusive classroom. And the next one is about classroom management. It means that because of the diverse ability and needs in the classroom, so it can be like a challenge for teacher to manage the diverse classroom with students of varying ability and learning style. And inclusive educations like requiring effective strategy for maintaining an inclusive and supportive learning environment. And the next one is infrastructure accessibility. It means that there is so many like of building that have standard of accessibility for all. It means that the disabilities that cannot use the some of room or building in a school that haven't standard of accessibility infrastructure for them, so it can make a reduce it can reduce the participations of the students with abilities, especially physically inabilities. Okay, that's all about the pros and cons in implementing the inclusive education. In my opinion, there is important for us to strengthen the pros aspect in inclusive education rather than we have focus on the cons, because the cons offer here we can reduce it with the development and the working together for the teacher, school, and the government to enhance the each aspect of cons in here, that like sources, training, and classroom management. Well, that's all about the my the analysis of pros and cons in inclusive educations. So everyone, the conclusions for this discussion is in developing inclusivity of education in Indonesia, it is required to be balanced with an attitude of tolerance. And the second one is respecting each other and accepting the diversity in society. Well, it is crucial that we have to emphasize everyone, especially in Indonesia, has the same right to access the educational service. Last words for me that a great nation is a nation in which elements outbuild synergy. Therefore, it strengthens our grip on each other to build education in Indonesia that is superior and without discriminations. Well, that's all about me. I hope you all can get the understanding from my discussions. Thank you for attention. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you. Bye.